And now ready to join our broadcast is Viktor Yahun, military and public figure, Major General retired of the Security Service of Ukraine, Deputy Head of the Security Service of Ukraine in 2014 to 2015, and Director of the Security Sector Reform Agency. Viktor Nikolaevich Ugorin, we're glad to welcome you live on Freedom TV channel. Glory to Ukraine.
Yes, glory. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Good morning.
Viktor Nikolaevich, let's get into it. As you wrote in one of your articles, indeed, an important point right now is the systematic expansion of Ukraine's strike zone. Because, as President Zelensky pointed out, he very clearly specified the timing and the range at which, well, friendly Ukrainian drones, and not just drones actually, will be able to deliver their greetings. Well, today, for example, something flew into the Hydrostolkonstruktsiya plant in Chekhov, near Moscow, and Ukrainian drones keep visiting more and more new places there. In your opinion, realistically, within what time frame, thanks to the expanding geography and range, can we expect the Kremlin gang to change their rhetoric, their position, and end up at the negotiating table?
That's a very difficult question because we understand the system probably better than anyone. We understand the Russian power structure in the sense that we, for a very long time, were under the same kind of dome. But unfortunately, both the population and the authorities have a very, very high pain threshold. That's why, yes, Putin continues to threaten Ukraine, tries to redraw other people's borders, and bargains with Ukrainian territories, just like he said on the 26th during his meeting with his sailors. But the war is noticeably returning to where it started, from the Russian rear. And indeed, the president of Ukraine reported on the continuation of our Ukrainian long range operations and the updating of the list of priority targets, according to their real impact on Russia's ability to wage and prolong the war. And we're really not talking about isolated strikes, but about a systematic campaign. And it's aimed at everything connected to the defense sector, everything related to the military industrial complex, their logistics hubs, and so on and so forth. Obviously, the main goal is to ensure that Ukraine's long range pressure pushes Russia even more toward genuine diplomacy. This is expected to be achieved by complicating the production components for weaponry, inflicting oil and other economic losses, and destroying military logistics, gradually bringing the war back to its home harbor. The range of Ukraine's strike capabilities already exceeds 3,000 kilometers, and this has been confirmed. You know, when they're already flying to Tumen, it's clear that Ukraine's ability to operate at even greater distances keeps growing. What does this mean? It means that a significant part of Russia's military, industrial, and energy infrastructure, which the Kremlin considered untouchable for a long time, is now truly no longer safe. And this very term that we use, long range sanctions, actually describes what's happening quite accurately. International economic sanctions limit Russia's ability to acquire technology, equipment, and generate revenue. And Ukrainian strike capabilities are physically disabling facilities that directly support the continuation of the war. What's most interesting is that temporarily occupied Crimea is also no longer a safe rear zone for Russian troops. And the southern group, which is fighting in Ukraine, yes, in the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, is facing more and more problems that, well, just have to be solved right now. But it's impossible to solve them. According to the official report from the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, our fighters destroyed the Russian Triumph system. Just imagine. The Triumph is what Turkey bought for billions, and now they don't even know what to do with it. This is a very serious blow. The S-400 is not only an important element of Russian air defense. For years, Russia used this system as a symbol of technological and military superiority, actively showcasing and selling it to other countries.
Yes, Victor.
One of our,
Above?
yeah,
Yes. Turns out the triumph isn't so triumphant after all, right, Viktor Nikolaevich, as practice has shown. Although probably the Russian military, would have liked to keep using it triumphantly for a long time. Well, we see what we see. Plus, after all, there are long range weapons and, let's say, pressure and sanctions, as you very rightly pointed out. Well, they force the Russians to look for new options. Well, just like it was in our report, let me just remind you yes. And as for the use, most of the sorties were carried out from the Engels Air Base in Saratov region, which is quite well known to everyone. But after the strikes, specifically the successful strikes by Ukraine's defense forces, they had to look for new locations. And so the transfer, the relocation to a military base in the Amur region took place. But this also, yes, really diminished the effectiveness of the aviation, changed things a lot, and the number of aircraft has been greatly reduced. So, as you said, Viktor Nikolaevich, this is a comprehensive approach in a complex situation. So, yes, it all started, so to speak, with oil refining, with refineries, and now we see it's expanding. How do you see Ukraine's current capabilities and potential for further expanding its long range pressure? What might this look like in the near future?
Well, I want to say that this pressure through this, what do you call it, multiplex, which we hit, where there was actually a separate section called Everything for the Special Military Operation. They did try to hide it there, but still, it demonstrated quite clearly that a strike on just one such enterprise, which, by the way, is one of the absolutely essential and central players in the logistics system for small businesses in Russia, led to, I don't know, a massive and uncontrollable domino effect in the system, where a lot of different chains, specific chains within their complex business system, just completely and utterly collapsed under the pressure. And every single bit of all of this, everything we're seeing right now, is absolutely and undeniably the practical reality of bringing the war back to its original and natural environment. And we still have to keep in mind that Ukraine is not waging war against the Russian population, especially not targeting individual citizens or residential buildings like the terror attacks on our stores and supermarkets. Ukraine is systematically depriving the Russian war machine of resources, income, logistics, means of protection, production capabilities, and its sense of impunity. And it is precisely against this backdrop that we should consider the statement made by Finnish President Alexander Stubb after his conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky. According to Stubb, Ukraine's position today is stronger than ever since the start of the full scale war, and Kiev is ready for peace. At the same time, he emphasized that continued support for Ukraine from its partners is critically important to maintain this momentum. And Ukraine truly is ready for peace, not for a peace dictated by the aggressor, not for capitulation, not for giving up its own territory, and not for dividing Ukrainian lands among neighboring states, as the Kremlin scenario would have it. Real diplomacy begins not when Putin voices yet another set of imperial fantasies or puts forward obviously unacceptable demands. It begins when continuing the war becomes more costly, dangerous, and hopeless for Russia than ending it.
Viktor Nikolaevich, here's some interesting. Look, the Flamingo cruise missiles, which the defense forces are successfully using for long range strikes against the Russian Federation, are several times cheaper than the American Tomahawks. This was reported by The Guardian, citing the CEO of Firepoint. According to their data, the cost of a Flamingo missile is just under $600,000, whereas the price of an American Tomahawk is about $3.5 million. And the Ukrainian company is currently producing about 100 Flamingo missiles per month. By the way, the chief designer of this company said the other day that as early as this fall, Ukrainian ballistic missiles could very well fly in that direction towards Moscow. What do you think? Will this change Putin's position?
Well, if we reach the number he's talking about, 90 missiles a month, that will seriously strengthen Ukraine's capabilities. That's why the Russians are in such a hurry. That's why they're trying to do the impossible and achieve some kind of territorial solutions on the ground. So if we hold out and they don't succeed, and we add ballistic missiles to our cruise missiles, I think that'll be a much more serious argument than anything in diplomacy, by the way.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Viktor Nikolaevich, we'll definitely see each other again. Viktor Yahun, military and public figure, Major General, retired of the Security Service of Ukraine, Deputy Head of the Security Service of Ukraine in 2014 to 2015, Director of the Agency for Security Sector Reform.
On the Freedom Telegram channel, you'll find only the most important news.
We promptly report on everything happening in Ukraine and around the world.
Please subscribe now.